हेलो दोस्तों, क्या हाल है। तो आज की वीडियो में बात करने वाले हैं कि एक सीए फ्रेशर जो होता है उसका कैसे इंटरव्यू लिया जाता है। देखो, सबसे पहले अगर मैं इंटरव्यू की बात करूं, इंटरव्यू से पहले सबसे जो मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है वो है रिज्यूमे। तो यार रिज्यूमे जो होता है ना हमारा, वो सबसे पहले हमारी बिफोर सेलेक्टिंग कि हाँ भाई इंटरव्यू हो, उससे पहले तो हमारा रिज्यूमे बढ़िया होना चाहिए ना। और मैंने जैसे पोस्ट डाला था तो काफ़ी सारे मेरे पास लोगों के मेल आया था, रिज्यूमे आए थे। तो मैं ये बोलूँगा यार, जो रिज्यूमे थे ना अप टू द मार्क नहीं थे ऑनेस्टली। मतलब किसी की अलाइनमेंट इधर जा रही है, कभी किसी का फॉन्ट ऊपर बड़ा है नीचे छोटा है, यार ऐसा नहीं करना है। आपको सारी चीज़ें सही रखनी है, अलाइनमेंट जो फॉन्ट है वो स्टैंडर्ड रखना है। तो उससे उसके लिए ना एक पोर्टल है, मतलब आपको पोर्टल बता देता हूँ, नोवो रिज्यूमे नाम से। काफ़ी सारे पोर्टल हैं, उसमें से एक पोर्टल है नोवो रिज्यूमे, जो पर्सनली मैंने भी काफ़ी बार यूज़ करा है और काफ़ी मैंने अपने जूनियर्स को भी रिकमेंड करा है। तो मैंने सोचा आप लोगों को भी मैं बोला जाए, बताया जाए। उसमें क्या होता है ना, ये सारी झंझट पालने की जरूरत नहीं है आपको कि यार मेरा अलाइनमेंट ठीक है या नहीं है, ये सारी चीज़ें करने की जरूरत नहीं है। वो क्या है, आपका फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट पोर्टल है आपका। और जो आपका ये पोर्टल है ये आपको खुद ही बना के दे देगा। मतलब आप उसमें डिटेल डालोगे और वो आप अलाइनमेंट ये सारी चीज़ें खुद ही करके देगा आपको। तो आपको झंझट लेने की जरूरत ही नहीं है उस केस के अंदर। तो आप नोवो रिज्यूमे सबसे पहले आप यूज़ करो और अपना जो रिज्यूमे है वो परफेक्ट बनाओ, सो दैट जो आप जिसके पास भेज रहे हो, जिस बंदे के पास भेज रहे हो, आपका रिज्यूमे अगर प्रेजेंटेबल होगा तभी जाके तो वो आपको बुलाएगा, भैया आजा इंटरव्यू के लिए। टेक्निकल चीज़ें आपकी जो बाकी की चीज़ें तो बाद में चेक करेगा ना। सबसे पहले तो आपकी जो रिज्यूमे है वो अच्छा दिखना चाहिए। तो आप नोवो रिज्यूमे आप यूज़ कर सकते हैं। एंड सेकेंड थिंग, जो हम इसको पूरे इंटरव्यू को डिवाइड करेंगे, आपका सबसे पहले तो शॉर्टलिस्ट होगी। शॉर्टलिस्ट होने के बाद 2 राउंड के अंदर हम इसको डिवाइड करेंगे। पहला होगा टेक्निकल, यानी कि एक मैनेजर होगा, और मैनेजर जो होगा वो एक सीए फ्रेशर का इंटरव्यू लेगा कि किस तरीके से इंटरव्यू लिया जाता है। तो पहले तो हम टेक्निकल जो राउंड है उसके बारे में बात करेंगे। नेक्स्ट हम बात करेंगे हमारा जो पार्टनर राउंड होता है कि पार्टनर किस तरीके से क्या चीज़ें देखता है। अगर मैं बात करूं टेक्निकल के अंदर, तो आपकी टेक्निकल चीज़ें यूज़ कर देखी जाती है वैसे तो। जैसे आपकी नॉलेज कैसी है ऑडिट के बारे में, अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड के बारे में कैसी नॉलेज है ना। एक्सेल एक्सेल आता है नहीं आता आपको, तो वो सारी नॉलेज चेक करी जाती है। एंड अगर मैं बात करूं एक पार्टनर, तो पार्टनर आपकी पर्सनैलिटी चेक करता है कि यार सामने वाले बंदे की पर्सनैलिटी क्या है, किस तरीके से बोल रहा है वो, क्या वो अपनी बात को उस जज्बे के साथ रख सकता है नहीं रख सकता, ठीक है। तो वो सारी चीज़ें टेस्ट करी जाती है। उसी तरीके से हमने ये एक इंटरव्यू आप लोगों के लिए बनाया है, वही मद्देनजर रखते हुए। और यार अगर आप चाहते हो कि आपका जो रिज्यूमे है, अगर मैं किसी जो बड़ी फर्म्स हैं उसके अंदर रेफर करवाना चाहते हो मेरे से, तो आप मेरे को मेल कर सकते हो। मेल आईडी आपको नीचे दिख जाएगी, लेकिन उसमें सब्जेक्ट डाल देना कि आप किस पर्पज़ के लिए। अगर आप कोई सीए इंटर वाला कोई स्टूडेंट देख रहा है तो सीए इंटर डालना, और सीए फ्रेशर देख रहा है तो सीए फ्रेशर और जॉब ऐसे करके कुछ सब्जेक्ट में आप डाल सकते हो, सो दैट मैं उसको देख सकूं कि आप किस पर्पज़ के लिए आए। और आपको जो मेल आईडी है नीचे दिख जाएगी आपको, आप मेरे को वहां पे भेज सकते हो। तो चलो बिना टाइम वेस्ट कर रहे हुए चलते हैं इंटरव्यू की तरफ। हाय परविंदर, हाउ आर यू?
Hi Tushar, I'm doing good. How about you?
आई एम ऑल्सो गुड। लेट मी हैव फर्स्ट योर रिज्यूमे। अच्छा, कैन यू गिव मी परविंदर्स रिज्यूमे? या ओके, ऑन माय टेबल, जस्ट अ मिनट। या परविंदर, कैन यू टेल मी अबाउट योरसेल्फ?
So yeah, myself Parvinder Singh. Sir, I did my graduation from Shahid Bhagat Singh College, University of Delhi, and after that I completed my intermediate CA and joined ABC and Associates for my articleship. So I was working in statutory audit department for whole 3 years. So my major experience was in the auditing of like companies that includes listed, non-listed, private companies, MSMEs and all. So as far as my family is concerned, we are 2 siblings. My elder brother is an software engineer, and my father got retired from Indian Army. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so Parvinder, you want to join statutory audit. Any specific reason like why you want to join statutory audit? Like you have already done, as you said, you have
Yeah.
already done 3 years of articleship in statutory audit. So isn't like boring kind of task? Don't you think like that?
So when I started this journey of CA, so since then, I want to go global. So basically, if you see the major streams that we have in CA are basically the taxation part, then bookkeeping part is there, and audit part is there. So basically 3 dimensions are there, although there are other dimensions also. But if you see the major coverage is basically of these three things. So when I started my career, now I wanted to go global, and I know that like every country has their specific rules and regulation for the taxation part and all. And bookkeeping is also limited to one company. Like if I join an industry firm, industry company, so I'll be limited to that company. So for both the things I wanted, like I don't want to limit myself to India. I want to go global, and auditing is same throughout the world. Although there are standards different, but here or there they are same. Actually, there are some carve-outs and carve-ins, but basically the root thing is same. The auditing is same. So in future, when I'm planning to move outside, so that would be helpful for me to like get a job over there if my experience is in auditing. So that was the reason behind it.
Okay. So as you said, like you have done 3 years of your articleship in stat audit. So how you were doing your stat audit in your last organization? So what was the process? So if you can give just a brief, like how you were doing your audit.
Yeah, so as you know that audit is a process that starts from planning to reporting. So the same process is followed in our firm also. A team is allocated to a client and then we go and plan the client accordingly. Like in the first stage, we like research about the company, about the client, like what industry they are working in, what are the risks associated to that specific industry. And then after assessing the risks, then we prepare our procedures that how we are going to mitigate those risks in specific areas of financials. And then at the final part, when all the procedures are performed and everything is ready, then the reporting parts come and we have to basically we have to give an opinion on the financial statements. So basis on our workings, we come to our opinion, and then the reporting part is done, reports are prepared and handed over to the clients. Yeah.
Okay, so this was the part. So if I talk about the opinion part, so there are generally there are two kind of report are prepared. So are you aware about those?
Yeah, so basically two types of opinions are there. One is modified and the another one is unmodified. So unmodified is basically the clear report, and the modified one further includes three type of opinions. So that includes qualify, disclaimer, and adverse. So the qualify report is basically like if a specific area is not up to the mark, or you can say there is a misstatement in that specific area. So you cannot like give an adverse report. You cannot qualify whole report, whole financial statement. So for that case, we give a qualified report in which we specifically mention that like except this part, everything is okay, everything is true and fair. And the second one is the adverse. Adverse report is basically when you find like the things are not good and there is some errors and fraud which is impacting the whole financial statement, then we go for the adverse report. And the third one is disclaimer. So basically disclaimer can be further of two types. Like if you are not getting like all the data that you required for auditing, so you can disclaim that we cannot give any opinion on that because we haven't got the data that is required for auditing. So it's like that. So mainly two types of reports are there: modified, non-modified, unmodified, and unmodified includes three types of reports. Yes.
Okay, so like as you said, there are, if I talk about if you got all the data, so there are two kind of qualification can be there. So, two kind of modification can be there. One is qualification and the other one is adverse. So how you will differentiate in between both these terms? So when you will give qualify and when you will give adverse?
So as I told you, sir, like if the financial statements, like when we are doing the audit, so basically the whole financial statements is like distributed in areas, right? So we will be auditing some specific areas at a time. And if we are giving an adverse report, that means the whole we are giving, like we are questioning their whole financial statement. Like there is some fraud or there is some error, there is some misstatement in the whole financial statement. So whosoever is going to use that financial statement for decision making, that the whole, if we give an adverse report, now this is going to impact their decision, right? But like for example, we are doing in a specific area. For example, we are doing inventory part. We are checking inventory part. So there is some statement in that specific area, but other than that inventory, all the other areas, or you can say all the controls or all the other than that, all the financial statements are showing true and fair view. So only this part is having some misstatement. So then we give a qualified report so that we just mention that in the report, that whosoever will be using that report, only that this specific area is qualified, but other than this specified area, the financial statements are showing true and fair view. And the adverse is, like when the things are not good. then we go for the advance.
Okay, so you are saying like when the whole financial statement is having some kind of problem or having material misstatement in all the areas, then you will say that the report
Exactly.
is would be issued as adverse, right?
Right. The word that you use is basically, I am not able to recollect that, the material misstatement. If the financial statements are materially misstated, so then we go for materially misstated with pervasiveness.
Yeah.
If it's pervasive to hold the financials and it's materially misstated, then the report should be adverse.
Yeah.
And if it's material but not pervasive, then it will be qualified.
So if earlier you said when you were telling me about the qualification, then you said if the account is having some misstatement, then you will issue qualified report. But is it like misstatement or material misstatement? If I am
It's
having
material misstatement, actually. Material misstatement.
okay,
Because
so
if the things are not material, then we cannot give an qualified or adverse at all.
okay, right. So what is material misstatement? So and what is misstatement? How you will differentiate in between both these terms?
Okay. So basically, like when we do an audit, you know that an auditor cannot perform in 100% of testing, right? So it's not possible for him to like vouch everything and all, like all the vouchers and all everything in a span of a week or two.
Mhm.
So there is some benchmark that is chosen by the auditor that is basically known as the materiality. So that benchmark further depends on basing benchmarks, like revenue is there and other figures are there. That depends upon the industry to industry or the nature of client. That and then when the materiality is set, why we are taking this materiality, as I told, 100% audit is not possible, but there should be some benchmark how the auditor is going to give an opinion. There should be some benchmark on which he or she is going to judge whether this specific area or this specific financial statements are materially misstated or not. This benchmark is basically the materiality part. If the misstatements are greater than this materiality, so materiality is basically an quantitative number, but to determining a materiality we use non-quantitative, or you can say qualitative factors also. But after determining a quantitative number, if the things are above this, then the things are material. And if the misstatement is below the materiality, then it's good to go. Like we cannot give an adverse or qualified report.
Okay, so
So
as you
basically the difference is basically the materiality and non-materiality is for the judgment of the auditor.
so materiality, how you will compute the materiality basically? If you, as you are saying, like you have to decide the materiality, how you will compute that? So is there some formula or how what is the process?
Yeah, actually, basically, this materiality part is also very judgmental. It depends on basic law. A lot of factors are there. Like you are doing audit of the client for the first time. Is it a recurring audit or it's a first time audit? Because you know, if it's a first time audit, you will keep materiality as low because the risk will be high because you are doing the audit for the first time. But if it's a recurring audit, so you are aware about the financials, you are aware about the industry they work and what is their work culture, how is the like whether the client is reliable or whether the things are relevant or not. So at that time, materiality can be taken more. So as I told you, like there are various factors. So one of the factor is this, and other than that, there is a benchmark that we use to calculate the materiality. As materiality is a numeric number, benchmarks depends upon the industry and the decision making factor. For example, if a company is working and their main objective is to earn the profit, so at that time, we can take the net profit before tax or the net profit, or you can say the gross profit as the benchmark, because that factor is going to influence the decision of the stakeholders, right?
Right.
So, for example, there are some, for example, you can say a real estate company is there and they are holding a lot of assets, real estate assets. So basically the main, you can say the judgment, the shareholders are going to give the decision basis on the assets they hold, not on the profit,
Right.
right? So at that time, that real estate asset is going to make a major role. So at that time we can take the like benchmark as total assets, so we can calculate our materiality basis on the total assets. Then further we have to apply some percentage on these benchmarks, whether it is revenue, whether it is profit, whether it is total asset, whatever it is. So that percentage is also basically depends upon, like I told you now, the first factor, whether it's a recurring client or it's a new client. For a new client, you take less percentage to cover more samples, you can say, or to perform more procedures.
Right.
And for a recurring client, you can take high percentage, so that when you apply that percentage on that, the materiality will be high, your work performance will be less, your procedures that you are going to perform will be less. So basically, there is no such kind of formula rigid, or you can say an exact formula that can be used. It depends upon the judgment of the auditor. Yeah.
So yeah, Pravinder, you are right. So how you computed materiality, but if I talk about like I'm giving you one example. So let's take an example like you are an auditor of Paytm. I hope you have heard about Paytm, right?
Yeah.
So you are a auditor of Paytm, and you are auditing Paytm, and as you know, Paytm is not a profitable organization as of now. So what you will take as a benchmark for computing materiality?
So I told you there are various benchmarks for calculating the materiality that depends upon the judgment and also the factors. Yeah. So as you told that Paytm is a loss making. So as we know that the objective of the company is basically to make profit, right? The benchmark is not, you can say, constant one, or it's not consistent every year. Sometimes they are making like small profits or huge losses, or like it's fluctuating one, it's not a stable one. So whenever we take an benchmark for the calculation of the materiality, that should be a stable, or you can say a constant one, like there should be some trend, like it's not like that inconsistent one, like sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down, like huge losses or huge profit. So although the factor, as I told you, the objective of the company is to earn profit, but at this time, I think we can take revenue as the factor for calculating the materiality, and we can calculate the materiality basis on the revenue. Yeah.
Okay, so right. So Parvinder, let's so materiality, we have discussed about the materiality, but have so if I talk about like for the purpose of computing samples, so materiality would be the factor, or what you will take as a factor for for digging out samples?
Okay. So in the materiality part, so basically there are three things. The one is the materiality, and there is something called performance materiality, and there is something called, you can say, clearly triable CT or something, like lot of nomenclatures are there
Right.
for different type of firms.
Okay.
Okay. So like while performing the audit, like we have calculated some materiality, and we cannot take that materiality as the benchmark for the sample calculation, because it is the, you can say, it is the highest benchmark till which we can, all the, like if we can accumulate all the misstatements now, that can, we can ignore them up to that limit, right? But just to be on the safer side, or you can say on the conservative side, we calculate our performance materiality. So performance materiality is basically a bit less than the materiality, and we use that performance materiality for the performance of our audit. The name itself defines
Right.
the meaning. Performance materiality is like the materiality that we use to perform the audit, right? So if we accumulate all the misstatements and all the misstatements are less than that performance materiality, then we can give a clean report.
Okay.
So basically there are three things: the materiality, then performance materiality, and there is something like clearly triable. So that third, clearly triable, means you can directly ignore that part. If the misstatement is less than that, then you can ignore that part.
Okay.
So for the performance of audit, we take the performance materiality instead of the materiality.
Okay, so just to give you idea, as you said, like for being a safer side, you will use performance materiality. But basically, what happen? You take that gap, you take that room for the purpose, like there can be some undetected misstatement. Okay, so there, so you know your client. Okay, so you want let's say you are having a materiality of 10 crore number, but you want, you know, like there can be a misstatement in the financial statement of around 3 crores. So you can say like you will perform your procedure on 70% of materiality, and 30% you will have your room space for the undetected misstatement, because undetected misstatement can be there.
Right.
So you will
Yeah.
Yeah. So rightly said, as you rightly said, so you will perform your procedure on the performance materiality, right? So as you rightly said, Parvinder, about the performance materiality. So there are two kind of procedure in our audit. So can you name of those?
Yeah. So basically, while doing the audit, we perform two kind of procedures, as you said. The first one is the control testing, so we also known as the test of control, and the second one is the substantive testing, which further includes like SAPs and TODs and all test of detail, and the substantive analytical procedures and all. Yeah.
So in substantive testing, there are like some assertions. I hope you have heard about. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
yeah. So can you name what are the assertions for the balance sheet items?
For the balance sheet items, so for the balance sheet items, there is completeness, then existence, rights and obligation, then valuation is there, and then presentation and disclosure.
Can
So
you
these
tell
are the
me
five.
like, yes, correct. So can you tell me what is the difference and what is the purpose of these assertions and like what stands for what?
So sir, as I said, there are five assertions. So out of it, like for example, if I'll take the completeness one. So in the balance sheet, for example, there is an FSA, you can say the financial statement area of assets. So the completeness assertion will ensure that whether all the assets are there in the financial statement, like if company is holding some asset and it's not disclosed in the financial statement, that means the completeness is not ensured.
Right.
Whether all the assets are there in the financial statement, and it is other way around also. And for example, there is an assertion of valuation. Now it depends upon the accounting policy of the company whether these fixed assets are valued on cost basis or you can say the fair valuation basis. So if we see the valuation assertion, so whether these assets are correctly valued or not, if they are following the cost basis, then it is whether it is correctly depreciated and the current WDV is correct or not. And if they are following the fair valuation basis, then whether as of date of the balance sheet, these fixed assets are fairly valued or not. So like valuation is done, completeness is done, then I told you like existence is there, whether the asset that is there in the financial, they are showing a building, whether that building really exists or not. This is
Right.
one assertion. Valuation,
Rights
completeness.
and
Yeah.
obligation.
Rights and obligation is basically, for example, for these assets only. That building, if the client shows me like this building belongs to them, but whether they have the title deeds in their name or not, the
Right.
right on that building is there or not. And obligation part is for the liabilities, whether they are obliged to pay that liability or not. So
And what
basically
about
these assertions that we have to work on
presentation and
to get.
disclosure?
So presentation and disclosure is basically depends upon the framework they are following. So if they are following, like in India, we have our schedule 3 and other specific presentations that are to be made as per the framework. So if the financial statements are correctly prepared and they are as per the framework, then it's like presentation and disclosures. Like there are standards of accounting, and every standard gives some specific disclosures that are to be made. So all those disclosures are made in the financial statements or not. So all these assertions should be ticked by the auditor before coming to an opinion, or you can say that. Yeah.
Okay. What about the P&L assertions?
So so P&L is basically the transactions during the year. There is nothing like balance as on date or something like that. So for the P&L, assertions are occurrence, completeness, accuracy, then cutoff, and presentation and disclosure. So similarly, like completeness is basically if the transaction is occurred during the year, and whether the transaction shown in the financial statement or the transactions in the books of the client, whether they are complete. Like if there may be some transaction that has happened but not in the books of the client, then it's not complete. And then occurrence is there, it's the other way around. If we are encountering a transaction in the books, and we have to see whether that transaction is really occurred or not. It can be bogus or something like that. So completeness and this occurrence is done, and then after that accuracy part. So accuracy is, for example, the company is booking a sale. The sale is of 100,000. So whether that specific sale is booked for 100,000 only. So that accuracy, the attributes that are to be taken, whether it is booked correctly, like it can be the amount, it can be the date, it can be the party from which they are purchasing or selling. So whether all the attributes are accurately booked or not. And then cutoff procedures are performed. The cutoff is also one assertion. Cutoff is basically for the period, like whether that specific transaction is booked in correct period or not. Like we have to prepare the financials on a specific date, as on date. So whether this specific transaction belongs to the previous year or the subsequent year, like in which we are, or for which we are auditing. So cutoff procedures are there, and the disclosure and presentation part is same as the balance sheet.
Very good, Parvinder. So Parvinder, we are taking some of the examples. So I will throw some examples to you, and you just have to tell me what assertions we are ensuring here. Okay. So if I am counting inventory, so what assumption we are ensuring?
Okay, fine. So during a stock count, so basically the existence assertion is fulfilled because we are testing the specific inventory physically. So we are ticking that part, like the inventory exists as per the books. So existence is the assertion that is fulfilled.
Right.
Yeah.
So the company is having a procedure to book all the sales which has been occurred, which has been transacted till 31st March. So what assertions is ensuring?
Till 31st March. Okay, so it for the P&L part, it's cutoff.
Right. So you are checking, so Parvinder, you are checking some vouchers of purchases, and you are ensuring all the purchases has been booked in your, like you have digged out some samples, and you are ensuring all those samples is in the books of accounts. So what assertion you are ensuring here?
So here, sir, I think it's occurrence. Like all the transactions that are there in the financial statements are really occurred, like transaction during the year.
Right. So so you are checking whether there is any impairment in assets or not. What assertion you are ensuring?
Valuation part.
Right. Right.
Do
So
we need to impair that specific asset or not? Yeah.
Right. You are checking whether the client which some amount has been borrowed, whether those amount the client is having all the documents or not. What assertion you are ensuring?
Okay. So basically, okay, documentary. It's the right and obligation. Like if
Right.
you are
Right.
asking about the liability part, so it's an obligation.
Right. So you are checking whether the rates, whether the quantity, you are multiplying rates and quantity, and then you are ensuring whether the price which has been booked in your invoices is correct or not. What assertion you are ensuring?
So you are talking about the attributes, its accuracy.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. So yeah, it's like you are having a good knowledge about the assertion. So one example more we can take. So you are sending some confirmation to the debtors. What assertion you are ensuring?
To the debtors, we are sending the confirmation. So with the confirmation, I think not only one assertion is ticked, but 2 or 3 you can say. Like for example, there is a debtor and we are sending in confirmation. So completeness plus valuation is also ticked, because if some amount is receivable from that guy, that party, the same value is coming in the financials and the same number is confirmed by them. So valuation part is also assured, and the completeness part is also
not about it's not completeness. So basically completeness, if I talk about the completeness in debtors, so completeness means you are reconciling your financial statement with the aging which the client has provided. Okay. So that is completeness. Okay. And when you are sending confirmation to the debtors and you are receiving confirmation, then you are ensuring you are ensuring here two assertion. Basically there is one assertion which is existence, that you are ensuring because the party is existing. Okay, you are ensuring that. And the second one, you have rightly said valuation. You are ensuring valuation as well, because party has confirmed, like yes, you have asked like 10 crore is due on that party, and party has confirmed like 10 crore is due. You have also ensured the valuation part. Okay, so that's right from your side. And this is all about the assertion. If we go to the controls part, test of controls and all these part, so there is walkthrough. What is walkthrough? Have you idea?
Yeah, we used to do the walkthrough in some like specific areas on the client. Walkthrough is basically, sir, the understanding of that specific process. For example, we are going to test the revenue, but before testing the revenue, we must have the knowledge of the process the company is following. For example, for the revenue part, like how the order is received and how the sales orders are prepared, and then how the invoices are prepared and how the goods are delivered, and then when the revenue is to be booked and all. So walkthrough is basically the walking through this process, checking all the evidences during this process, what all documented evidences are created, what are the controls that we have to identify, like who is authorizing the sales order, who is authorizing the who is like signing authority of the invoice, and like we have to identify the controls also during this walkthrough. So walkthrough is basically understanding the process and do a walkthrough of the same. Right.
Okay, so through this walkthrough, so you will define your RCM.
Yeah, RCM.
Yeah, so what is RCM?
So it's basically the risk control matrix. During the doing this walkthrough process, we identify the risk areas, and like what could go wrong is basically the what we call it as what could go wrong. What could go wrong are basically the things that if this thing will not happen, there will be some error or there will be some misstatement, right, in the process. So while identifying this what could go wrongs, we create some mitigating factors, or you can say the mitigating procedures that we are going to ensure while doing our test of control. So basically this matrix is known as the risk control matrix, in which we identify the risk and then we create the control procedures to mitigate those risks. So risks are the what could go wrongs that we have identified, and the controls that we have identified that will be mitigating them, that specific what could go wrong or the specific factor. So this is the whole plan is basically known as the risk control matrix.
So if you found like there is some deficiency in the control, so what it can impact, how it can impact? Is there any impact on your opinion? Is there an impact on your sampling part? Is any impact on that part? Like if there is, like you have found you went to the client and you were talking to the client who was checking revenue part, who is doing revenue part, and you found out there is no control. There is no control on the invoice. There is no control on the PO. There is no control on the receiving part. There is no control at all. So how it will impact on your audit procedure, further audit procedure? So yeah.
So as far as controls are concerned, they are not directly going to impact my opinion, but yes, they are going to impact the procedures, like my substantive procedures that I am going to perform. The quantity of the procedure, or you can say the extent of the procedure, substantive procedures will be increased if the controls are not effective, or you can say there are no controls. So my substantive part will be increased, because if I am taking some comfort on the controls now, so while performing my substantive procedures, I can, like I am taking comfort on the control, so I can perform a bit less as compared to if there is no control. If there is some comfort, like there is a control of authorizing by that specific authority. So for example, I'll give you one example. For the revenue part only, if the sale order is signed by the, for example, you can say the finance head, so that finance head is itself testing that specific sample, and then only he is authorizing that sample. That means some kind of comfort, or you can say some kind of testing is already done by them internally. So while calculating my samples for the substantive part, if I have some comfort on the testing part, my substantive part will be less. My working on the substantive part will be less. But if there is no control, or the controls are ineffective, then I have to increase my substantive part to before coming to an opinion or judgment, because that should be balanced.
Right. But rightly said. But have you heard about IFC, ICFR?
Yeah, IFC. Yeah, for some specific entities, you can say it depends upon country to country, or like in India, we have IFC reporting, and there are some specific companies, they have to specifically follow the control like IFC financial reporting, and we have to report on their control part. Like for example, listed entities. So in that case, if there are no controls, and in that case, that surely going to affect our opinion. But if the IFC is not applicable to that client, then it's only about the substantive part and the control part. But if IFC is applicable, then yeah, surely it's gonna impact our opinion. Yes.
So
We
can
can
you
disqualify. We can
rightly said, right,
like qualify the IFC part also. The
right,
specific report is there for that.
right, absolutely right. So can you give me like 3 examples of revenue controls?
Okay. So 3 controls in the revenue process. Fine. So like the process starts with the PO part. So one of the control we can identify is that whether the POs are properly approved or not. And then when we come to the invoice part, like invoice must be authorized by the appropriate authority as per the authority metrics. So the invoice is properly approved or not. And then while booking the revenue, you can say whether the goods are delivered or not. Like delivery, if the Incoterms is of that kind, like revenue is to be booked at the time of the goods are delivered. So there must be some acknowledgement on the invoice or some kind of communication from the client that the goods are delivered. So that can also be one control. So basically these 3 controls, yeah.
Exactly. So Parvinder rightly said. So these are called basically financial control because we are reporting on
Yeah.
ICFR, internal control over financial reporting, being an auditor. So what about operational control? Can you give me one example? What is operational control?
Okay. So some of the operational controls are like they are related to the HR part or the IT department, or you can say the breakdown maintenance also is one of the operational control, how the company is maintaining their breakdowns, and like IT part, how they are maintaining their servers, cyber security risks and all. So these are basically, they are not the financial, they are not going to impact the financial part, but they are they are going to impact the operational part. So basically these are the operational controls. Yeah.
Right. So I hope you have heard about like auditor is responsible for ICFR, but management is responsible for IFC, right? So IFC also includes operational, or it's just financial controls?
No, it includes operational also.
Right, right. So, so can you just give me a brief idea about the planning? So, can you give? So, can you tell me 2 or 3 things which you do in planning?
Yeah. So basically, so in the planning part, we do a lot of things. Like it includes the ETD part. ETD is basically the engagement team discussions, in which only the engagement team is involved. Like allocations are done. Like these areas are to be done by this specific resource and all. What should be the deadlines and all. These things are discussed in the ETD. Then some discussions are done with the client to understand the industry, to understand the financial statements itself from the client, like how they are doing, what are the trends, what are the business prospects, what are their future budgets and forecasts and all. And then if we come to the financial statement, while doing the planning, we scope in and scope out basis on our materiality. Materiality is also determined in the planning process. After like determining the materiality, we see what all areas are scoped in, like on which we will be performing the procedures during our audit, and what are the scope out, like that are not material, why to perform the procedures on that. So basically these, you can say these 3-4 things are there in the planning part. Yeah.
Okay, so this was about the our whole process, and I think you have a good grip over those processes. So
Thank you.
I'm really impressed from your knowledge. So so let's talk about some of the few parts that I want to discuss with you. Have you heard about going concern SA 570?
Yeah, going concern.
So what is the
Yeah.
purpose of going concern? So if I let's take an example. Let's take an example. So if let's take an example. If there is a country, there is some war, okay, and if I am exporting all the goods, all my goods to those countries, so what will happen? Is there any problem in my going concern? Do you think?
So this going concern plays a very vital role during the audit, because it is going to impact our reporting part also. It is going to impact the company's future also. Like if we see the reporting part, for example, you have given me an example, there is some war going on with the country to whom we export, or 90, or you can say 100% of the sales are to that country. And now this things, let's sale zero next year, because there is a war and government have some rules and regulation that we are not going to export things to that country and all. So the company's business is on stake, whether they are going to continue or not. So basically that going concern part is that depends upon the operational cycle also. Like for example, the operational cycle is 12 months. So during our reporting, we see whether the specific company is going to be going concern in their operation, in their upcoming operational cycle. First part. Secondly, this financial statement, basically during our basic understanding of the accounting, we used to study that there is a going concern basis, that financial statements are to be prepared as per going concern basis. So this creates a question mark for the auditor whether financial statements are prepared on this going concern basis or not. And if this kind of situation encounters, so there should be some materiality and material uncertainty on that the specific entity is going to be going to continue or not. So we have to create, like while reporting, we have to mention that in our report by giving an EOM, or you can say a materiality and material uncertainty on going concern paragraph, by adding that paragraph in the financial, which includes the factors, the basis on which we are giving that report, that company is no more a going concern, or the company itself is planning to like close down in future. So the main crux is that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So so let's talk about some accounting standard parts. So do you have any idea about the Ind AS 115?
Ind AS 115, yeah, it's the revenue, yeah, revenue from contracts.
Yeah. So let's say you are dealing an export client, and so they are exporting. So you are from India, and they are exporting. The client is exporting to the US. So
Okay.
how you will recognize those exports if I talk about from the angle of Ind AS 115?
So basically the Ind AS 115 is like distributed into 5 stages. So the first stage is related to the contract, like whether the contract is commercial or not. And in the second stage, I think we have to assess whether we have to identify the performance obligations basically. So whatever the transaction you are talking about, like we are exporting, for example, some goods to them. So what is our performance obligation? It depends upon the Incoterms also. Like for example, the Indian party is responsible to deliver the goods to their doorstep. Now this is going to include a lot of things. The shipping part will be there, the insurance part will be there, and the delivering part will be there of the good. So this includes lot of performance obligations. This is not a one performance obligation. Not only the goods. Insurance part is also there, freight part is also there, and the time the goods are delivered, then only the risk or reward is transferred and the revenue will be booked. So Ind AS 115 says we have to identify the performance obligation, and then when all these, and then the transaction price is distributed among these performance obligation, and when all these 3 of them, like I have given you example, all these performance obligations are fulfilled, then only we can book our revenue. So for example, an entity is exporting. So when the goods are delivered, for example, the Incoterm is to deliver the good to their doorstep. So when the goods are delivered, all of the 3 performance obligations are done, then only we can book our revenue for all the 3 performance obligations. So this is the crux of the Ind AS 115 basically.
Right. So let's talk about some Excel parts. So so do you know what is the purpose of pivot?
Yeah, pivot is basically used to, like you can say there is a huge complex data, you can say raw data, and we have to create some informational data from that. We have to be like, for example, I'll give you one example. There is a payroll sheet of a client, which include a number of this employees, but we need to get the data, like the payroll sheet is for the year, all the 12 months, but we need to create it for the month on month. So we can use that pivot tool to create that, to summarize that data in a table that is going to summarize all, like for a CTC structure, for example, there are 10 components. So we can summarize that whole thing in a table. We can use that pivot to summarize that raw data in a small table, so that we can get some information from that and we can do our procedures or whatever we want the information. We can use that.
Exactly. So this was all from my side. If you want to ask something from me, if you want to ask about our organization, if you anything from your side, you whatever you want to ask.
Okay. So like I told you, like my whole experience is in the statutory audit. So I just want to know, like what all verticals your firm is working in. Is it specifically in audit or like taxation, or like what all verticals your firm is in, and what is the you can say the distribution, like if the business is 100%, then how much is in the audit, how much is from the taxation, and like that.
So in revenue terms, you are talking about your second question?
Yeah, the revenue terms, or yeah.
Okay. So Parvinder, KLMP, which is our firm, is basically into the various sectors. Basically it's into audit, it's into direct tax, indirect tax, transfer pricing, merger and acquisition, valuation, financial due diligence, and various things we are dealing into. And when you will be doing, hopefully, when you will be working as our employee, so you will be dealing with those people as an expert. Like whenever you need any expert, when we were dealing with a client, let's say one client is having some valuation kind of thing, the client has issued some of the shares and you need some valuation expertise. So you need to appoint those experts from our firm, and they will evaluate whether the valuation is correct or not. Okay. So there are various sectors, there are various things which we are working on, like as I told you. And if I talk about the revenue things, so that I cannot disclose basically. So that's something confidential that I cannot disclose. Sorry for that.
But yeah, major of your business is into the audit or in the taxation, or in the, just wanted to understand that.
Yeah, so we are majorly into the audit and taxation.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Anything else?
Fine, sir. That's all from my side. Also, like hopefully I'll be joining you soon. If like my things go on good, then
Yes, sure. So Parvinder, so basically, I just want to tell you, this is first round of your interview, and the second round will be conducted like so HR will call you. So this was all from my side. My partner will also have some one-to-one discussion with you. Want to have a discussion with you, and once they will say, and once I will approve, so both will have a common discussion, and once we will approve, then will surely you have on board. So HR will call you and will let you know about this interview.
okay. That's fair enough, sir.
Yeah.
Fair
Thank you,
enough.
Parvinder.
Okay. Thank you, Tushar.
हाँ जी Parvinder, कैसे हो?
Hello, sir. I'm good. How about you, sir?
I'm also good. My manager is really appreciating. He was saying भाई बंदा फाड़ू है ऑडिट के अंदर.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
So Parvinder, just I also want to have some discussion with you. Can I?
Yeah. That's for that only I'm here.
So Parvinder, I have just gone through your CV. So you have just written here, you have 3 years of experience in articleship as statutory auditor. So
Yeah.
so can you narrate some of one of your story which you think like some kind of learning and some kind of interest, anything you remember?
So, sir, I would like to share one of the incidents like that happened in my first year of articleship. What happened is like we calculate our materiality, and by mistake I shared that materiality numbers with my client, and like now he knows what is our materiality, what is our performance materiality, and he has that understanding of this, like what is materiality, what is performance materiality. And whenever I go to them, like for some misstatement, or you can say like there is some journal entry or something, I want to report, like I want to understand this, like what is there in that specific sample and all. So every time he gives me an answer like this is below materiality, this is below materiality. So that day it was one of my learning that never to share the materiality figures with the client, so that he will get his audit done correctly. Otherwise he gonna question you each and every time when you, like when the numbers will be like less than the materiality. So this is one of the incidents. Yeah.
Great. So Parvinder, I was just checking your CV. So you have written like you have interest in stock market.
Yeah.
So you just have interest or you also trade?
So I do trade, sir.
Okay, so in what kind of security you trade? Future options or cash?
Yes, sir. I do trading in options and cash. Yes.
Options and cash. So there are two kind of options. Do you have any idea?
Yes, call and put.
Okay. So let's say I'm having a position in cash market. Let's say I have purchased shares of Reliance. Okay.
Okay.
And I want to hedge that position through options.
Hmm.
So what position I
Okay.
can take in options through call and put so that I can hedge myself in Reliance shares?
Okay, sir. If you have bought some Reliance shares, then you can hedge using a like buying a put option, or you can short sell the call option. Yes.
Okay. So let's say you have a position in future and you sold futures of Reliance. So how you will hedge in options?
So, sir, actually, I have no experience in the future. I never did this like buying or selling in futures. So I already told you that. So I don't have any idea like about it.
No issue, no issue. So let's have some discussion on options. So if you are buying call options, so
Okay.
you if you are buying some call options, you pay some amount. What that amount
Right.
called?
Premium.
Okay, and the person who is receiving who will sell that they will receive that premium.
Yeah. Right.
So in call options, so basically there is some strike price or exercise price. You can say there is
Yes.
that amount.
Yes.
So what happen
Right.
when that amount crosses? So how what will happen with your position if you are
So it
having
depends. Like if you
long position in call?
the call position and your exercise price, for example, right now the share price is 90 rupees, and you bought a call for exercise price of 100. Fine. Then when the exercise price, it will increase, like it will cross the exercise price. For example, in some period, in some term, in some time, it crossed 100 and it went to 105. So that 5 rupees will be your profit multiplied by the number of calls you have bought. So when the price crosses the exercise price, that is your profit basically. So you're betting on 100 that in future the price will be 100. So whatever is the price over the 100 will be your profit.
Okay. So if there is a bear market, if there is some bearish market in, as you know, there is some war in between countries as of now, Russia and Ukraine. So if there is bearish market, so how it will impact on commodity? If I talk about particular about the gold, so how it will
Hmm.
impact? If whether the price would increase or decrease, how it will impact and why?
So actually, in determining the prices of commodity, it depends upon various factors actually. So for example, you are saying about the gold. So gold is also one of the investment opportunity for the public actually. So when the stock market is bearish, so people will withdraw money from that and put it into the gold, because gold is more stable, more constant than a stock market. So gradually the prices of gold will increase because the demand will increase. So what I have this understanding, like if the stock market is bearish, instead of investing in the stock market, people invest in the debt instruments or in the commodities like gold and all. So the price of gold will rise.
Okay, great. So, as you know, the market is down as of now. The whole world market
Hmm.
is down. So, how you see it? Like, do you think there is opportunity in the market, or how you see?
Yeah, so basically the bearish trend of like in last you can say 2 weeks, the market dropped very like hugely. That is the sole reason is behind the sole reason behind is basically the war between Russia and Ukraine. So this reason is itself is a very temporary one. So this is a reaction of that temporary reason. People are like their comfort level is disturbed and the market is bearish because people are selling. So due to that selling pressure, the market is down. And due to this, you can say the international politics is involved and everything. The whole international market is dropping. So, and you know that every market, like whether it is an Indian market, whether it is Singapore market, US market, every market is related to each other here or there. So that's why this is a temporary reason behind, like gradually when the things will improve, the market will surely attain the same position. So for now, I think it's a good time to buy because the shares are getting in at good prices just because of this basic uh, normal reason.
Okay. So, Parvinda, where do you see yourself after 5 years from now?
So in next 5 years, sir, I see myself on some like managerial post of some good organization, like handling clients or engagements by myself and with the support of my team. So I think 5 years is a good time to like gradually I'll have that experience that I can handle the clients by myself. And so yeah, so I would like to have a managerial post in coming 5 years. Yeah, the next 5 years.
Okay. So, and what is your expectation from the salary?
So, you know, like being a freshly qualified chartered accountant, and I just want the band that is there in the market, that is available in the, like, if you can compare the big fours and the top 10, 20 firms. So I just expect that much. Like, I cannot give you a number because as I am a freshly chartered accountant, freshly new chartered accountant, I don't have any background of earning. Like I can give you like a number that give me 20% hike or 30% hike. I just want a band that is up to the mark of the standards, market standards.
Okay, great. So, Parvinda, what do you think? What are your strengths and what are your weakness? Give me two strengths and give me two your weaknesses.
Okay. So one thing is there that you can take it as a strength or you can also take it as a weakness. I hesitate to say no to people. If they give me some work, so it like I do hesitate to say no. Whether it is, you can say, a strength for me because I can do any work. Like at least I will try. But sometimes it plays another role. It is a weakness also because sometimes we have to take this decision like to say no. So one of the common thing, whether it is a strength or whether it is a weakness, is I hesitate to say no before anyone. And strengths, you can say, yeah, I can like very adaptable. I can adapt the things very quickly. The culture of the company, or you can say not only the company, if you can say in a relationship, my friends and all. So I adapt people very quickly. I mold myself according to them. So this is also one of my strengths. Okay, weaknesses, sir. As I told you, like I hesitate to say no for any work allocated to me. So I think yeah, it's a weakness, and yeah, that's it. So these are my strengths and weaknesses.
Okay. So, anything you want to discuss with me? You want to know about our organization or anything?
So I like to know about the team and like how many partners are there in the firm and like how the things run, like how many partners are there in the audit and how many partners are there in the taxation, who is leading partner, who is the head, and also just to know the organization structure of the company.
Yeah. So we are 48 partners, and if I talk about
Mm.
specifically about statutory audit, so we are 11 partners here, and
Okay.
I am leading the whole audit department here. So
Okay.
yeah, so I am leading here of the audit department, and your role would be, if you would be joined, so your role would be as an associate. You would not be leading, at the initial stage, but obviously as gradually you would have experience of our organization and our working culture, and obviously after like 6 months, 8 months, you would be leading some of the clients. So
Okay.
yeah, so this was about our organization. Anything else you want to discuss?
So like, when can I get the reward from your HR? Like, if I expect that my interview goes up to your mark, and when can I expect the confirmation or whatever it is, the feedback from the client? Because I want the feedback, whether it is positive or negative. So when can I expect that?
Yes, you will surely get. So we are just having interviews. So like it will take 2 or 3 days. So you will surely get a feedback within 2 or 3 days.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, sir. That's all from my side.
Yeah. Thank you, Parvinder. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. तो यार आई होप आप लोगों को ये वीडियो पसंद आई होगी, और अगर आपका फिर भी कोई डाउट है किसी भी चीज़ को लेकर तो आप कमेंट सेक्शन में कमेंट करके पूछ सकते हैं। और ये जो इंटरव्यू है, देखो मैं आपको बता दूं कि बेसिकली इंटरव्यू जो प्रोस्पेक्टिव था वो था कि आपको गाइडेंस करना कि किस तरीके से इंटरव्यू होता है, ठीक है। अब इसमें क्या होगा ना कि कई बार हो सकता है, मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा कि सेम एज इट इज यही क्वेश्चन पूछ ले जाएंगे, ऑब्वियसली, मतलब ये मैं जस्ट आपको एक आइडिया दे रहा हूँ कि किस तरीके के क्वेश्चन पूछे जा सकते हैं। तो ये इंटरव्यू का प्रोस्पेक्टिव यही था कि सो दैट एक ओवरव्यू ले सकें, एक कवर कर सकें कि हाँ यार किस तरीके का इंटरव्यू होता है। तो वो आपको जस्ट मैंने दिया है, एंड आई होप आपको इस वीडियो में मजा आया होगा। अगर वीडियो पसंद आई तो लाइक जरूर करना, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब जरूर करना। मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में। थैंक यू सो मच।